Welcome back everybody, and welcome back to another pickups episode. So, as you know, I'm on a Saturn journey, and the majority of this is Saturn, but I'll do the other stuff first, and then if you don't like Saturn, you can call it quits there maybe. So, we've got, as I say, Saturn, we've got Dreamcast, we've also got original Xbox and PlayStation 2. So, we'll do the Xbox first. Now, this is a game this is about the third time I've bought this game. And the previous occasions, there's always been something wrong with it. I think the first time I bought it, there was no disc in the box. And the seller refunded me on eBay because he'd forgot to put the disc in. And the second time I bought it from CEX, didn't work. So I'm sure this is the third time I've bought this game. And unfortunately, it didn't really live up to my expectations. And it was a bit of a letdown, to be honest. Especially given the sort of trouble I've had to get it in the first place. And I'm talking about Mashed. This is also on the PS2, as you're probably aware. And there's a sequel to it as well. And it looks quite nice. It's kind of like Micro Machines really, which is what I was expecting. And I'd read that it was kind of like a modern Micro Machines. I say modern, 20 years old. That's about as modern as I get. So, yeah, I put it in, and I mean, it is like Micro Machines, but I don't like how the camera pans around the course, because if you get to be sort of in the lead and trying to eliminate your opponents by knocking them off the bottom of the screen, the way the camera's positioned, you can't see where you're going. It's just frustrating, which is a shame because the rest of it seems reasonably good really. I probably still will pick up the sequel when I find it, just to see if it's improved at all. So that was Mashed. I will try and put some footage somewhere, don't know where, if I get time to record the gameplay footage. I'll try and do that for all these if possible. So the next one, another Xbox title, and this time we've got Ford Racing 3. Now there's 4 Ford racing games on the Xbox, pal. There are more American, I believe, I've seen. But there are 4 PAL ones. 2, 3, Mustang and Street Racing. And this, I'd got 2, I needed 2, so this is the third one. Which, funnily enough, Ford Racing 3 is the third one I bought. Really good, I think. All 3 of the ones I've played, I think they're really good games, these Ford Racing games. I just now need Mustang. But if it's as good as the other 3, definitely going to pick it up. Really arcadey, decent quality, basic racing game. Can't go wrong for the money. Now, PS2. Now, this one, I'd seen somebody else mention this in a video, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was who I saw with it. But whoever it was anyway, I'd never seen it before until I saw it on this video. And I thought that kind of looks interesting. And tried to read up on a bit about it on the internet. And it kind of sounded like Chase HQ. So I thought, well, I've got to try and track this down and try this out. And it's really cheap. So the alarm bells were already ringing, because if it's cheap, it tends to be crap, doesn't it? The only hope really was that, PS2 was so popular, there's so much of it about, prices can be cheap because, supply and demand. Too much supply, not enough demand. But anyway, World Super Police. And it's kind of a weird game really. It is like Chase HQ, but it's kind of Chase HQ. It's weird to explain. It's kind of like Chase HQ with the fun taken away. In that you're a police officer, obviously, but you're driving like a patrol car, albeit a souped up like Bugatti Veyron type patrol car. But you know, it's the same principle as Chase HQ, whereas you've got to chase down a baddie, and you've even got the meter on the side of the screen just the same. So hopes were high when I first put it in. And then you catch up the bad guy, and then I thought, right, time to ram him off the road. But now it then turns into like a police camera action TV show, wherein you've got to sort of converge with other police cars to try and get him to stop legally, if you like. So, you know, the fun sort of went nosedived. So then, you know, it goes back to the base then. It's kind of more mission and adventure based than Chase HQ. But it plays quite arcadey. And so I thought, well, if this is what it's like, I'm not going to pursue this. So I tried another mission, and instead of trying to slow him down legally this time, I thought, I'm just going to ram him off the road. I'm going to go full Chase HQ. And lo and behold, it worked. So the second mission, I managed to just ram him, make him explode, mission over, and it said cleared. So maybe you can do both, I don't know. But it's not bad, really, for £2 or £3, wherever it's going to cost you. Again, I'll try and put some footage up. I think, you know, you might like this one, Ed, possibly. It is very reminiscent to Chase HQ. It's just a shame it's, you know, more adventure based, but not too bad. Right, Dreamcast. Now, you have seen these before if you watched last week's video, because I recently picked up 2 brand new Dreamcast games from Dana at Hidden Chest Gaming. As I say, he's got 5 in stock at the moment, brand new by Wave Game Studios. And I picked up Yeah Beebies. Obviously it was in last week's video. Very basic, like a NES game on the Dreamcast. You know, it doesn't push the Dreamcast in any way. It doesn't look, you know, anything fantastic at all. You know, it's very basic. It's even 8-bit computer style in some ways. But it does play well, and it is quite addictive. So for the £10 it costs, you know, I think it's more than adequate for £10. It's you know, well worth picking up for a tenner. And then the other one obviously was Rush Rally Reloaded. Now this is fantastic. As I said in last week's sort of review video of these 2 games, fantastic arcade top-down racer, much like Thrash Rally on the Neo Geo. Or Micro Machines, I suppose. Really, it's kind of like that as well. You can play depending which mode you play. But yeah, cracking game. And you get the bonus soundtrack CD in as well, and the game music is really good. So that's a cracking bonus. And then the other Dreamcast. Now this is one I've wanted for donkey's years, and unfortunately it's a mega pricey one. Because it came, I'm not sure, I think it was, you know, it wasn't an early game, it was more of a late release, I think. And it came in, you know, it came with a massive book. And if you're looking to buy it now, it's probably, you know, you're probably looking at £150. So, too much for me, unfortunately. So we've gone down the repro route for this one. And that's Yu Suzuki Gameworks. And for those of you who don't know, obviously Yu Suzuki, major Sega sort of game designer, and this fundamentally was a collection of his earlier works bundled on one disc and then sort of ported onto the Dreamcast, and it came with this big sort of glossy hardback book. I think it's hardback. I've never actually had one, but it looks hardback from the pictures I've seen. But yeah, it comes with this big glossy book, sort of detailing his earlier work for Sega. And the disc itself contains 4 of his early games. And those are Outrun, Afterburner, 5 games, sorry. Outrun, Afterburner, Power Drift, Space Harrier, and the original Hang On. Now obviously, you know, more or less they're all available on other systems. So my reason for wanting this really was the original Hang On, because that's never been converted to anything as far as I'm aware, where you can get, you know, brilliant conversions of Outrun, Afterburner, Power Drift and Space Harrier all on the Saturn. Hang On never came out on anything as I understand. I've never seen it anyway, you know, other than the Master System, which is great, you know, fantastic. I love it on the Master System, but, you know, to be able to play the arcade version on here, mint. Absolutely love it. It was well worth buying. Not sure I'd want to pay 150 even if I could afford it, but absolutely chuffed with that. Now, onto the Saturn. So from here on in, we're all Saturn based, so that might be good for some, bad for others. But here we go. I think we'll do these first. Now, these are, I'm not sure how you describe them really, but they're really cheap. And it's the CG Portrait series, the Virtua Fighter CG Portrait series for the Saturn. And there are 10 of that. I'll try and, I've bought these as a big bundle. Which way is this going? Yeah, this is volume 1. So you've got volume 1, which is Sarah. You've got volume 2, which is Jackie. I should have done that way really, I can read them then. Volume 3 is Akira. Volume 4 is Pi. Volume 5 is Wolf. Then I'm missing 6 and 7. And then volume 8 is Leon. Volume 9 is Cage. Volume 10 is Jeffrey. So as I say, there's a disc each for each Virtua Fighter character. 10 in the set, and I've picked these up as a big bundle because they've always kind of interested me. But it's not a game as such. All it is basically is it's kind of a sort of a 5-minute video with a song, and then there are stills of each character in various poses, and you know, stills of sort of them in make-believe environments. And like I say, it runs about 5 minutes, a bit like a pop video basically. There's a song and there's pictures to go with the pop video, focusing on each character in the game. Like I say, there were 10 released. There is an 11th, which is a bonus one, which is Dural. But the only way you could ever get that was collecting the other 10 and sending the spine cards to Sega in exchange for the 11th disc, which is Dural. And if you're looking to buy the Dural disc now, you know, it's 100 quid plus, you know, crazy. But it does come in a fancier box than the standard ones these come in. So like I say, I bought these as a big set, really cheap. You can pick them up for sort of 5 quid each, something like that. But unfortunately, volume 6 and 7 were missing. So I'm now on the hunt down for those. Because although, you know, 5 minutes, that's all you're getting, it's a bit of fun, and it was quite interesting to watch them. But again, hopefully the footage is round here somewhere, and you'll see what I mean. But it was quite interesting really. Well worth the money, and it's kind of a funky item to have on the shelf. It can just, you know, great for the nostalgia. And it was, all those were actually released with the PAL version of Virtua Fighter Remix, I believe, and it all came on one CD as a bonus disc with Virtua Fighter Remix PAL, rather than all separate editions like the Japanese. But I thought that was particularly nice anyway. So, onto the proper games now. And I know some people don't like repros, so we'll get them out of the way first. As I've said before, some of the games are so expensive, repros is the only option for me. I prefer repros to emulation because I want to play it on the actual hardware with the actual Saturn pad. and I like having the box on the shelf to look at. So that's the reason I'm, you know, for expensive games, I'm buying Repro. So the first one I bought, Burning Rangers. Now this isn't actually that expensive for the genuine Japanese one. The PAL one's quite expensive. But the reason the Japanese one's still reasonably priced is the fact it's not that playable, because you need the directions and the navigation, which unfortunately, obviously, the Japanese version's all in Japanese. So it makes it difficult to play. However, this version is basically the English version in a Japanese box. So although it looks Japanese, you've got all the English navigation, so the game is perfectly playable. And I do remember playing this when it first came out on Japanese, and I did like it at the time, but you know, the Jap speech and text was a bit too much of a barrier for me, so I never sort of bought it. But you know, it's still a really good game, I think. Made by Sonic Team, this one. Obviously, it's a firefighting game basically. But you've also got a time limit. You've got to get to certain places, put fires out within a certain time limit, and the time limit is what makes it quite challenging from what I've played so far. But it is a really good game, so I do recommend Burning Rangers. Then this is another one I used to have back in the day and foolishly sold, and I'm glad to have Shinobi Expo. Now again, this is quite pricey, even Japanese, it's well over 50 quid. So I've picked up this repro version. I'm sure you all know what Shinobi is. Really good. I'm not convinced it's as good as the Mega Drive. It's kind of, you know, it's obviously quite revolutionary at the time. You know, it was kind of, I was trying something new with digitised graphics, and you know, there's a fair bit of FMV sort of cutscenes, and it is still good. I mean, it's a good game. I just don't think it's as good as the Mega Drive ones, but it's great to have it back. And then the next one we've got. Now this is another one I've fancied for some time, but again the price is well north of 100 quid, or at least 100 anyway. And it's Elevator Action Returns. Now I think this is the Taito. No. Who is this? Oh, it's just Taito. Licensed by Taito anyway. Yeah, this is basically really funky. Great graphics, 2D. I'd say it's a run and gun, but you don't do much running really. The character moves fairly slowly. There are a choice of 3 characters, I believe, and sort of all with different attributes. And you've basically got to get either from the top of the level to the bottom, or the bottom to the top, or you know, something of that nature, by using a lift, hence the elevator. But really good game. Looks fantastic. I mean, this really, you know, this is the kind of game that has aged brilliantly, because it's a fantastic 2D game on a 32-bit system, which the Saturn excels at, and it's the kind of game not that many people wanted back in the day, because everybody wanted 3D stuff. But you know, time has sort of decided that this was possibly, you know, the better route to have gone with that first generation of 32-bit hardware, because you know, the 3D stuff now looks quite bad, where this still looks fantastic. So thoroughly recommend that one. Arcade Elevator Action Returns. Now this one, I'd never heard of this, and a while back it was Champion 2D Rob who'd mentioned this to me. I might want to check it out, and like I say, I'd never heard of it. Did a bit of research, looked quite interesting. Walk along beat 'em up, you know, in the Streets of Rage Final Fight mould, and it's called Neketsu Oyako. Now, like I said, I'd never heard of it. It's really expensive for a genuine one, which again is why I've gone repro. And it's a cracking little game. Like I say, walk along beat 'em up, very reminiscent of like Final Fight. kind of a bit bizarre in the fact, you know, the first level you're just walking down the street as you'd normally expect in a walk along beat 'em up, but then the second level you're suddenly in the stomach of a whale, it seems, fighting octopus. There's no explanation as to how you get there that I could see. You've just got basically, you know, you finish the first level, you think, oh great, come on, next level, and you're inside this animal. What the fuck? But it doesn't matter. It plays really well. It's a cracking game, and definitely one to recommend and check out if you've got some means of playing it. Maybe it's a bit of a hidden gem, I'm not sure, but it's really good anyway. And like I say, that's Neketsu Ayako. I might have butchered the pronunciation. Right, not far to go now. And now this next one, Sega Worldwide Soccer 98. These are genuine ones now. Obviously, everybody's probably heard of Sega Worldwide Soccer if you've got a Saturn. But this Japanese version is really quite unusual, and aren't many of these about. Obviously, it's the sort of PAL version converted for Japanese, bizarrely. But obviously, rather than having Japanese teams, which you've normally got on Victory Goal, which is the proper Japanese version of the same game, you've got the English sort of or continental teams on this one. So great to pick that one up. There's about 2 of these I need now. For somebody who don't play football games, I've gone down this rabbit hole of collecting these Victory Goal games on the Saturn. And there's quite a few of them, but I think there's 2 I need now. Then in a similar vein, sort of following on from the last Saturn pickups video, we've got Greatest 996. And I think this is the last one of these, the baseball games I needed. I think I've got the full set of these now, unless research tells me different. But you could do. But these are cracking games, Greatest 9. Big fan of these. They're all much of a muchness in some ways, though the later ones do control a bit differently. You've got the aiming reticule for the swinging the bat, but they're all good, and chuffed to get that one. If you don't like baseball, it's not for you. Right, penultimate one. Now this one, I never knew this existed up until a few weeks ago when I happened to find it by accident when I was just stumbling through, you know, racing games on the Saturn basically. And this is, the actual name on the box is Soyotoko Battle 97. It's basically Tokyo Highway Challenge, Tokyo Highway Battle, which is on the Dreamcast, obviously, or 2 versions are on the Dreamcast. This, I'm assuming, is a Saturn sort of prequel, and like I say, I never knew it existed. Not that many about, but it really is good. It really surprised me how good it looks. The graphics are fantastic. Plays really quite well. It's very arcadey. All the text is in English mainly. There's probably 90% text is English. Plays really well. You know, there's a fair amount of cars you can choose from and vehicle classes. The only negative, there only seems to be 2 tracks. One of which gets you get a reverse version of. But unless you open others up, that's the only sort of downside. But it's kind of the norm for an arcade racer back in the 90s, really. You know, you never got many tracks. It's a shame there's not a 3rd one, maybe, but cracking game. Thoroughly recommend that one. I'd say that is a bit of a hidden gem if you like your arcade racers. Then the last one today. Now this is one, again, I've had in the past and foolishly got rid of. One of the better games on the Saturn for me, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of classics, but this one is particularly good in my opinion. And we've got Dynamite Decker. aka Die Hard Arcade. Now, God knows why I got rid of this in the first place. I mean, bloody stupid mistake. Fantastic game. Again, very arcade. I think it was an arcade to be actually. Hence the name Die Hard Arcade. But it feels like when you're playing it, it feels like an arcade game. You know, the levels are quite short. But your energy bar soon runs out. You know, a bit of a coin muncher. But yeah, it's basically a Streets of Rage on the Saturn, isn't it? I mean, you've got to walk along sort of beat 'em up level, but they're kind of separated into small segments, and you'll play a segment, maybe half a dozen bad guys, and then it'll load a bit, and it'll move the scene to a different sort of sub level, if you like. Within one level, it's separated into sort of sub levels, and you'll fight these half a dozen guys, then go to the next one, and then go to the next one, and then there might be a boss, you know, after the 3 or 4 different sub levels. And then you also get sort of quick time intermission sort of levels as well. We have to push the fire button at the right time to knock somebody out or jump over something or something of that nature. But absolutely fantastic game. Really chuffed to have it back. Especially, you know, like I say, really wanted the genuine one of this. It's not one of the cheaper games, but especially if you're buying PAL, it's quite pricey. But absolutely cracking game. That's Dynamite Decker. I'm on the lookout for the Dreamcast version now, because again, foolishly, I've sold that one as well. But there we go. That's the pickups for the moment. There are a few more in the pipeline, which will be on the next one, obviously. But thanks for watching, everybody, and hope to see you on the next one. Sayonara.